Good morning, everyone. Our reading this morning is taken from Luke chapter 16, verses 19 to 31, and it's the story of the rich man and Lazarus. There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores, and longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was in torment, he looked up and saw Abraham far away, with Lazarus by his side. So he called to him, "Father Abraham, have pity on me, and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I'm in agony in this fire." But Abraham replied, "Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, between us and you a great chasm has been set in place, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us." He answered, "Then I beg you, Father, send Lazarus to my family, for I have 5 brothers. Let him warn them, so that they will not also come to this place of torment." Abraham replied, "They have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them." "No, Father Abraham," he said, "but if someone from the dead goes to them, they will repent." He said to him, "If they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, they will not be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead." May God bless this reading of his word to us today. Amen.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our short time of reflection together based on the stories that we've just heard read to us from the Bible, from Luke's version of his life of Jesus Christ. Now, each week we come together, we try to do a bit of unpicking or going deeper, then we get some questions to consider, and it's all with the intention of us wrestling together to find the light and meaning for us in the here and now of these stories that were written thousands of years ago. This past Sunday, we looked at the rich man and Lazarus. Now, we didn't just look at that story because it's a nice story. We had a look around what was going on, what motivated Jesus to use this story. And it would seem that what motivated Jesus was the fact that the religious teachers and leaders of the day were lovers of money. And of course, in their day, they would have taught that to have riches and to have wealth was a sign of God's blessing. And to not have those, therefore, was a sign of God's curse. And so Jesus tells a dramatic story where he uses the extremes, a rich and a poor man. And there is a barrier between them. There is a gate. The rich man feasts every day, and then Lazarus is sat at the gate of his house, and then they both die. And the shock factor that the audience, at least for when Jesus was speaking, would have, we might not get it as much now, but the shock factor was that the rich man woke up in the lowest tier of Hades, the waiting room before judgment. And Lazarus woke up in the highest tier of Hades. And in some senses, this is a bit like the waiting room in Jewish thinking. The lower in the waiting room, the more sinful your life was. And the higher, the more blessed it was. So Jesus, in using these two characters, turns everything that people have been taught on its head. The audience would have expected the rich man, especially the Jewish leaders and teachers, the rich man should have been where Lazarus was. And Lazarus should have still been where he was on earth, where the rich man had placed him. And so we looked at what then played out, how then the rich man, it was a catastrophe. And you can imagine as he wakes up, he's expecting a royal welcome. And when he looks up, he sees he's not in the top tier. And Lazarus is in the top tier. And he learns that because he refused to see Lazarus as his neighbour, then that's why he's landed up in this place. Now, of course, we noted, didn't we, how the rich man has a conversation. I think he has the conversation with Abraham, and he's still trying to order Lazarus around as if Lazarus belongs to him because he was the rich man and he deserved honour. And even still, so you will find this actually in Christians that have a sense of entitlement and privilege. They'll look down on everybody else and expect everybody else to agree with their agenda. That's the way it happens. And I do often think that, like, when, you know, whatever we might think judgment looks like, there will be an awful lot of people who have put all their eggs in the wrong basket. So what can we say tonight? Because we've got rich and we've got poor. We've got almost this division between the two. On earth, the rich man feasted and Lazarus was at his gate, and the gate was the division. And then when they die, they're further put at opposites, but it's all switched around, and there is a fixed chasm now when they've died between them. There's no going back now. It's almost like the rich man realises that the barrier that he put to Lazarus on earth now is fortified against him because he refused to treat him as his neighbour. So reflections then. Well, I wonder whether we could explore whether there are things that we rate as important that make us see others as cursed, less important, and less valuable. Now, I could bring up the obvious one, the LGBT community. Have we got theology that says, yes, we can have a gate between us? But it can be anything. What about our churches and our theology and teaching? Does it actually help us to see friends with additional needs as equally brother or sister, or do we still sort of discriminate without realising it? At the moment, there is big talk, isn't there, after the death of Sarah Everard about, well, what do our churches really say about these things? You know, like if somebody walked into our church, would they see a division between male and female to the extent where females have to be subservient to the wishes and demands of the males? Is all our leadership male? Thankfully in Hayward Baptist Church it's not. But I mean, still that's some way. But what about our participants on a Sunday morning? What about our empowering of women to do ministry within the church? Do you know what I mean? What are the barriers that we have? Maybe we refuse to acknowledge that they're there because we always think we're very good when we go to church, but there's an awful lot of bias within the church. What about racism? I did lament a few when there was a TV programme, the school that tried to end racism, and I lamented that most of my Christian friends didn't watch it, as if we don't need to watch it because we're good. When I watched it, I thought, oh my goodness, there's too much to reflect on and change. So what things cause us to make divisions? And, what theology makes us to feel like that rich man, even in death, that we can start commanding even Abraham or God or the angels or other people to come and do our bidding. Like, should we have a theology that makes us like the champions and the winners and everyone else the losers? I don't know what the questions are going to look like tonight because I'm still formulating them. I just think we have to focus on the danger of theology and practice, and how if we don't reflect on it critically, we will create barriers. And then we're not able to be neighbours to those that are on the other side of that barrier. And the point, I think, of the rich man and Lazarus was to say the rich man needed to see Lazarus differently and be a neighbour to him, not just throw money at him in a pot, but be his neighbour. So I suppose the other challenge then, right at the end of this, is when, I forget if it was Abraham or if it was an angel. No, it was Abraham that was talking to the rich man. Said to the rich man, you and your family that are now still alive, you have what you need in order to do the will of God. You have the teachings necessary to be a neighbour. And so I think there's another challenge to us, isn't there, which is how far are we implementing the Sermon on the Mount in our lives? How are we engaging with the world around us? Who is found at our meal table? Are we people that only have those like us round the meal table, or those not like us? Because we realise that to invite the stranger, the poor and the needy amongst us, changes us to be more Christ-like than ever being in our holy huddles does. So I'll put some questions up now, and I do apologise if that was a kind of random waffly reflection, but let's have a look at some questions and then we'll see how we get on with them. Why is Jesus telling this story? What is he really getting at? How do you think the leader and Jewish teachers would have felt about this story? How would the common people have heard this story? What types of teachings and beliefs do we hold that enable us to discriminate? Are we right to hold such beliefs? Should anything get in the way of loving God and loving your neighbour as yourself? Being honest, where in the past have you, or have we as a church, done things that have rejected and othered people, leaving them at the gate? How can we fix that? Abraham tells the rich man that his family have the law and the prophets, and that is enough for them. So what is the core theme or values of the writings that we call Scripture? How ought we to wrestle with them to find the light we need to live by? What are we currently ignoring? And what are we currently obeying? And how can we do better so that we are a people of justice and mercy? So thank you for at least reading and listening to those questions. And as we do each week, there is a group that meets online. If you're not part of the church and you don't know how to join that, but you'd like to join a discussion, then leave some comments for me, either if you're watching on YouTube or if you're in Facebook, and we can get you an invite to that. But if you're going to have a look at those questions and prayerfully do a study yourself, then be blessed in doing that. And as always, the questions that I prepare really a launching point for deeper discussion. So use the questions if you're working in a group just to prompt and keep discussion going, and don't worry if there's diversions off, because it's always interesting to hear other people's perspectives and views on things too. The point of all this, of course, is that we grow in grace, we grow in the knowledge of God, and we become the people of God that we are called to be in this world and in this time in which we have been placed. So God bless you all, and I look forward to seeing you again on Sunday, where we will be looking at the story of Zacchaeus, who hides in a tree but then gets outed by Jesus. See you all on Sunday and have a good few days. God bless.